What is going on, guys? Today I bring you round 5 of Open San Sebastian. And in this round, after two draws against higher rated opponents, I got paired up against even higher rated opponent than what I was facing last rounds. And this time I was facing Zuhaitz Lopez. I don't know if I pronounced it well, probably not. But yeah, he was a 1948 rated player. He had the white pieces, I had the black pieces. My opponent started with e4, and I went into the French defense. So d4, d5, knight c3, knight f6, and e5. So the classical variation, one of the most testing. And here, as I said before, I did prepare a week before the tournament of the French, but it was, in a week you can only prepare so much, and I was a little bit shaky. And, of course, the main move here is knight d7, and here there's a lot of theory, and I had prepared a lot of lines in this variation, but I wasn't 100% sure about my memory and, if I mess up something in those main lines, probably my opponent is gonna punish it, because if he's going for it, he probably knows what he's doing better than me. So, I decided to go for a sideline, which is slightly worse, which is knight g8. But there's some tricks. Okay, the knight goes back to its starting square, but maybe it will have a better future. So let's see. Here, my opponent actually took some like 6 minutes, so he was definitely surprised by this move, which is a nice sign. And yeah, he decided to play f4, which is actually inaccurate. It's a little bit of a small mistake, because in this variation with the knight on g8, now my knight will have the square on f5, so you probably shouldn't really play f4. There's no need to. Just knight f3 is probably better. And yeah. But okay, here I messed up already. I played knight e7, which is not really the way to go. Here the most natural would be just c5, which of course I would like to play. And I looked into this, but there was this line after d takes on c5, bishop takes on c5, and queen g4. And here, like, I looked at these variations before the tournament in another line. It was a similar line, and I remember like that the engine's best move would be like something like bishop f8 and then knight f3 and stuff like that. And just, look at white's development. Look at my pieces; they're all in the starting square, so this is like horrible visually for me, at least. But here the computer says that I'm totally fine if I play g6, for example. But I thought this wouldn't be good for me. Something like knight f3 or bishop d3, and yeah, maybe even long castle, h4, h5 coming. I didn't really want to allow this queen g4, even though it's completely fine, and it wouldn't be nothing special. It would be just equal. But I thought that white would get a big advantage, because in another similar position, like, the computer already was screaming that white was almost winning with a similar thing. And of course, I think in that line that I saw after takes here, there was like knight e7, but here of course doesn't really work before. And if I try to undermine with a6, I guess just knight b5. With a5, excuse me, knight b5 is already very annoying to deal with this threat. But okay, because of that, I decided to play a knight e7, which is slightly inferior. Also, just knight h6 accomplished the same thing, and it's better because it's not blocking the bishop. So, just really, it's a like small mistake, but yeah, it's unnecessary. Here my opponent plays bishop e3. I of course go knight f5, and my opponent goes bishop f2. And here, I was thinking, do I just develop or do I stop g4? I decided to stop g4 with h5, which is a fine move. Bishop d3 here, and here I played g6. And I have to be honest, like, I already feel like my position is a little bit awkward, because my opponent already has, okay, he's gonna play knight f3, so, and I play knight d7, but here my opponent already has 1, 2, 3 pieces developed. I only have one. But my argument was that, okay, it's a closed position, so I have time to play like this, although it's questionable. So okay, knight f3, knight d7. I wanted to finally break with c5. I have to play c5 at some point, and here my opponent played bishop takes on f5, took with the g pawn, and my opponent played queen d2. And yeah, I mean, it's a position, right? I was like, okay, my opponent is probably gonna long castle, start an attack here, but the g4 square is controlled. My opponent has the g5 square, which can be a little bit annoying. My pawn structure is it's a little ugly, but I have the g file. You always have to look at the pros and cons, and you have to try to hype up your position while you're playing, because you don't want to be thinking that you're lost or something like that. Even if you might be, you want to try to cheer up yourself during a match. I think that's very good. But here after queen d2, I looked at c5 immediately, but I didn't really like that he had this option of knight b5, which for me was a little bit annoying, looking at this d6 square. But here I decided to play e6 first to avoid any knight b5s, and here my opponent plays bishop h4, which I completely missed. Very strong move in my opinion, very logical. Pretty much my queen is kind of trapped here on d8, and I have to play bishop e7, and after takes, my opponent just got rid of my best piece, which was the dark square bishop, and now I'm left with this very bad French bishop, just looking at all these pawns. So yeah, here I already felt like something went very wrong, and I was already like spending a lot of time on the clock. My opponent was just blitzing out all his moves after he played f4. I mean, he spent like 6 minutes thinking about my move knight g8, and yeah, after that he just blitzed everything out. So okay, here my opponent goes knight e2, makes sense, c5, c3, and here I was a little bit confused. I didn't really know how I would play out this position. I thought about playing it slow with something like b6, bishop b7, but at the same time, like, what is my bishop doing here? I thought about c4 here, trying to close everything off, but at the same time, like, if I close everything off, my bishop will forever be a bad bishop, and my opponent will just have time to build up something. So I just decided to take, which, yeah, the computer doesn't really like. But after takes, knight b6, I was trying to free up my pieces somehow, some way, get the pieces out, maybe castle, maybe not. Like, the problem with playing like this is that my king doesn't really have a safe square on the board, like, and my rooks are not connected. It's hard. I mean, the engine doesn't hate this way of playing. The engine says that it's playable, but from a human perspective, it's not easy at all, and I learned that the hard way. So knight b6, my pawn plays b3, I play queen a3, which I wasn't expecting. I was expecting to play something like bishop d7, but I didn't really want to allow this queen on a5, because now I'm forced to go back to c8, and like, what are my pieces doing? Like, this is like horrible. Like, my opponent is just gonna castle, and he's just gonna slowly destroy me on the c file or something like that. I mean, just couldn't allow that. But after thinking for like maybe 10 minutes or something, I finally find queen a3, which I thought, okay, that's nice. That stops any queen a5. And here my opponent played rook c1, and here I went into the deep thinking tank again. Yeah, it's a hard position. Like, I'm really lacking development. My pieces are awkward, and yeah, I just screwed up my opening for sure. Here I spent a lot of time on the clock to try to figure out a way to continue, and I finally reached the conclusion that bishop d7 actually works. And the point is that after something like rook c7 here, I can just play bishop c6 and I'm fine. Knight g5, which is the move that kind of worried me in my calculation at first, actually can be well met with knight d7, which is very, very important. If I had to play something like after knight g5, if I had to play something like rook f8, I think that this would be very, very bad, because I mean, I'm just completely stuck here, and you know, it's if I move my king, this pawn falls. But fortunately, I saw that after knight g5, I would have knight d7, and here I'm already threatening to play rook f8, and after rook f8, rook d8, and take the rook. But my opponent just, in a couple of seconds after I played bishop d7, just castled, and I was like, okay, cool. Like, I just spent so much time to play this bishop d7, probably like something like 15 minutes, or maybe even 20, I don't know. Yeah, just I was trying to calculate everything, but yeah, my opponent just castled, and here I played rook c8. Like, I have to trade pieces. I felt like that was the only way to survive, because I mean, I don't feel like castling makes any sense here. I'll just be completely crushed on the king side. This pawn is weak, everything is weak, so I have to leave my king in the middle, which is correct. And okay, rook c8, my opponent takes, I take with the knight, and my opponent plays rook c1. And here, okay, I play knight e7. I feel like the knight on b6 wasn't doing much, so I just played the knight to e7, and it's the same story, that pretty much rook c7 can be met with bishop c6, and if knight g5, rook f8, and I'm threatening to trap the rook. So my opponent here just played rook c2, kind of a waiting move, or yeah, just a waiting move, or maybe he just wants to double on the c file, something like that. Protect this pawn, move the queen. It's just a solid move, honestly. And here I finally play like knight c6, and I put my knight on a good square, you know, looking at b4, pressuring d4, and yeah. But here my opponent plays queen e1, which just shows that yeah, my opponent kind of knows what he's doing. He just wants to now hold everything together on the queen side and transfer his pieces to the king side to put pressure. And okay, I realized that he was gonna try to do that, so I played queen e7, kind of anticipating that that maneuver, and my opponent played queen g3. And here, you know, I spend a lot of time thinking again, because this is kind of scary to see that his pieces are gonna start jumping in, and you know, it's tough. The pieces are also infiltrating, and my king is in the middle. But here, after thinking for a while, I found a good move, which was h4, asking the queen what is she actually doing on g3. And here my opponent played just blitzed out queen g7, and here I played queen f8. My opponent played queen f6, and this is a bit of a mistake, and for the first time in the game I am actually equal. After like 26 moves, I managed to like equalize out of nowhere. Yeah, just tough. Here, apparently, like, I can just play h3 here, and I'm fine. Or rook h6. I saw rook h6, but after like queen g5, yeah, I didn't really know how to follow up. Let's say I move the rook to h8. Now my opponent can actually just take on h4. So, yep, I didn't really want to allow that. Computer here says queen h8 and it's equal, but I don't know. I just feel like I'm completely paralyzed. And so, to try to alleviate the pressure and try to, simplify the game, I played queen h6, and now my opponent is forced to take. And yeah, here we reach this position where I managed to trade off queens. We have less pieces on the board, but still, like, white has, of course, an advantage, because like my position is just mess. It's just a mess. My pieces are all super passive, and they are not coordinated at all, and my opponent kind of has a free hand to maneuver his pieces while I just have to sit and wait. And yeah, this is very bad, but okay, I still was fighting. My opponent played a3 here, stopping knight b4. I played knight e7, trying to reroute my pieces somehow. And my opponent brings the king in. I play bishop c6. Yeah, my idea was to, kind of put the bishop here on c6, defend everything, stop the rook from infiltrating. Then the knight would be here, kind of pressuring f4 and protecting h4, and my rook would swing, try to activate itself on the c file, try to trade rooks. That was my idea. And here, after bishop c6, I would say that literally my opponent only spent time on that knight g8 move. In the opening, he had like 1 hour and 22 minutes maybe at this point, or 21 minutes, and I had like probably around 10 minutes, something like that, 10 minutes I guess I had at this point. So just psychologically, that's very hard, because I never was in that situation where my opponent was just blitzing out every move, and I was like just feeling like I was getting super outplayed, and my opponent didn't even have to try hard, but okay, knight c1, rook h8, trying to follow that plan. My opponent plays knight d3, and yeah, this knight it's really well placed. I mean, it's just gonna be a menace on c5, or maybe even just play knight b4 here and attack this bishop with pressure. But yeah, here I play bishop b5, which I don't really understand why I played bishop b5, honestly. But yeah, I was kind of running out of ideas. I was definitely a little bit in panic, and also very frustrated because of just my opponent not like using time. And yeah, I mean, I just didn't really know how to deal with that mentally. So after bishop e5, my opponent plays knight c5. I go back to c6, and my opponent plays king e3, just improving his king. Here I play king d8, also trying to bring the king closer to the queen side to help. And my opponent plays a4. I play a5 just to try to stop his expansion. So a5, rook b2, and here I play b6, trying to kick out the knight. The knight goes back to d3, and I play king c7, trying to hold everything. And here, after knight g5, I'm forced to pretty much defend the pawn on f7, and I decided to defend with the rook. which, yeah, the computer says you can either defend with the rook or with the bishop, but yeah, the rook is fine. And here my opponent quickly played b4, which actually is a mistake and allows me to equalize again a second time. And here I was like, oh my god, what do I do? Like, okay, it just breaks with b4. I have to make a decision. I can't just ignore it. And yeah, here I had like probably around 4 minutes on the clock, 4-5 minutes on the clock. My opponent still had 1 hour and 20 minutes, which is crazy. And yeah, I make a big mistake, which is bishop takes on a4. Here, if I took on b4, the computer says that I'm completely equal. Let's say rook takes b4. Here I have rook a8, and I'm finally getting some counterplay on the queen side. And yeah, something like knight takes on f7. I have bishop takes on a4, and yeah, the computer just claims that that this is just equal. But yeah, with the time on the clock that I had, and just my mental state during this game, it was really hard to just you know, realize that this was fine for me. So yeah, I just panicked. I played bishop takes a4, and after b takes on a5, I play b5, which is a big blunder. And now, like, it's all over. Like, my bishop is totally out of the game. My idea with this was that I maybe would be able to win this pawn on a5 with something like rook a8, and I would have like a passed pawn on the b file. But yeah, it doesn't really work like that. So my opponent just punished it correctly, knight c5, and even my opponent can just take on a4 if he wants. But the problem here is that you know, if I go, let's say, rook a8 now, my opponent just has a6, and it is just over, because I will never be able to kick this knight out of c5. My bishop can't really do much on a4, and yeah, this pawn is always hanging. So yeah, it's all over. Knight c5. I play king c8, which just kind of I have to make a move. I had like probably like 2 minutes on the clock by this time. I was just running out of time. My opponent plays a6, and it's very sad because I can't even play king b8 because of the fork on d7. So I'm really out of moves here, and I just decided to play knight c6, and my opponent just brings his king d3. I play king c7, and yeah, king c7, I mean, I just can't move my king. I can't move my king, I can't move my rook, I can't move my bishop. My knight also doesn't have squares. I mean, it can maybe go to a7, but like, it's just completely passive. And yeah, here just I just decided, okay, just king c7, and of course my opponent immediately saw that he could win the exchange in some pawns. So yeah, he just took on e6, and after takes the fork, boom boom. And here I'm already completely lost. There's nothing really to play for. I'm just down pawns and exchange, and yeah, I just don't have any counterplay. But okay, I played a few more moves just out of frustration, and here I resigned. And honestly, this was one of the hardest games to deal with mentally, because I never had this happen to me on a tournament game, where pretty much I don't make any huge like piece blunder or just give up a pawn early on. I didn't make any like big mistake during the game until like really the end, because even at the end I was fine apparently. But yeah, I just felt like I tried my best. I calculated. I was concentrating, I was focused, I was motivated, and I felt like I just got completely outplayed, destroyed, and yeah, I felt like I just had zero chances during this game, and I was very frustrated because I couldn't even realize what went wrong after the game. Like, I just didn't know what happened. I just got completely destroyed, and my opponent didn't even spend time on the clock, which that was the hardest part for me to actually deal with mentally, because like when your opponent uses like 6 minutes on an opening move, and then for the rest of like the game, for the rest of like 45 moves, just plays all those 45 moves on like 3 minutes, 4 minutes, you just feel like super bad. Like, am I that bad that my opponent doesn't even have to think to beat me like this? And yeah, this is, I mean, some players play like this. There's not really anything I can do about my opponent's time management, and in the end it wasn't really destroying me. It was actually a pretty close game for the most part. He always had some pressure, some advantage, but like the engine was like saying that I was holding on, I was fighting well, but and I had some opportunities to get back into the game, but you know, for me it just felt like completely awful. And you know, I was like saying to myself, oh, I'm gonna quit chess, like I can't deal with this. I mean, oh my god, I'm so bad, like just got completely destroyed by a 1900. Like, what is this? He didn't even have to spend time. Like, I'm so bad, like I just can't deal with this competing in chess. This is like too rough. Like, what is going on? I was just super super sad, like Jesus. Like, I was more sad this game than in the game that I gave up pieces at the start. Uh, but yeah, okay, it passed. Like, at the day after this game, I was already like back to normal, and I didn't want to quit chess. I just, I was very very sad and shocked. But okay, it passed, and I learned that sometimes it will happen, and yeah, you just have to deal with it. But yeah, it was the first time that someone destroyed me while using no time. But it wasn't really a destruction. It was just like a game where my opponent was able to just outplay me and just put pressure on my clock. I didn't really got completely destroyed. I fought well, but yeah, it is what it is. Okay, that was the game 5, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.